When Adya talks about never abdicating your authority, I think that it kind of begs this question of how do we sense our own authority, and how does that register in our what we might call body, mind, spirit, or register in our being. And I'd love to have that be an open-ended question for you. I'll speak to it tonight, but more importantly, to the point of tonight's talk, is how would you answer that for yourself? How do you sense your own inner authority? How might that present to you, and how is it that you recognize it? So I'll give you some pointers of how I recognize it, and what you can do as you're listening is you can see if what I'm saying resonates and speaks to you in a way that you find is similar in your experience. Or sometimes when you hear someone else speak about something, it provides this great contrast, and it clarifies how you navigate differently or how you perceive things differently. And my hope is that it can bring this topic of inner authority forward in a way that's more conscious. Because in this path of self-realization, it has an arc of becoming more and more conscious about our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our sense of self, our sense of identity, our energetics, and most importantly, our sense of our nature that cannot be boxed up, that can't be pinned down, that sense of our nature that is not bound in time, that is eternal, the sense of our nature that is not bound in space or location, that is infinite. And so in order for us to become more conscious of that, or we could also perhaps more accurately say, for that essence of what we are that is infinite and eternal, for it to become more conscious of itself through our own powers of perception and observation and experience, the more, sorry, it's such a long sentence, I forgot where I started. But so the more that becomes conscious of itself, the more we sense that arc of the journey of self-realization, or becoming more and more self-conscious as not only an individual, but as an interconnected being that it expresses the totality, or this sense of oneness that's often the word given to it. So back to my sharing a little bit about myself, I'm a very body-centered person, and observe my own energetics. And what I tend to find is that when my being feels more aligned in this central vertical axis, there's a way that not only my mind becomes more focused and more still, but my body also becomes more at peace and more settled. Then the energy that might be more dispersed or top heavy, it becomes more organized along this central vertical channel, and I'll feel more, especially below the neck, in the vision and in the mind as well, but also below the neck, I'll feel a sense of that energy gathering and feeling more robust as an anchor, an anchoring into the earth, and even a lengthening, up toward the heavens. And if we want to continue to follow the energetics, there's also, you could think of in addition to that connection, you could think of a horizontal plane where, the chest and heart is more open and the shoulder blades glide back down the body. So the point isn't to always be in this posture, but to observe how energetics create a direct experience of a sense of localized self. Now, Adyas often described the ego as this mechanism of push and pull, of grasping and aversion. Grasping, pulling toward, aversion, pushing away. And so this, wheel of samsara that's fraught with desire and resistance, this mechanism is how he actually describes the ego as these movements. And often it's a combination, as we're pushing against one thing, we're actually for something else. Like, no, I don't want that. I want this, or I want that. I don't want what I have. And so there's often kind of a combination of both things happening, creating a great sense of division and separation with what's actually occurring and what we would rather be occurring, or, what we don't want to be occurring. So there's this argument with what is that jettisons what's occurring and grasps for something else, or that type of dynamic. So when there's a sense of this kind of energetic coming together, it really feels counter to that divisive energy, and it gives a greater sense of resting and feeling the ability to be at home in one's being. Now, that doesn't necessarily happen in a snap. We might really need to turn our attention towards the dynamics of what's causing that sense of division, and what beliefs are in play, and what emotions are at play, and what triggers, and what conclusions and assumptions are at play, and to become a lot more conscious of those, and kind of unpack what's happening, and take a look at it in a way where we slow things down and can observe. And meditation practice can help us a lot with developing a sense of settling into a sense of self that can observe and can watch the dynamics of what play out in our system, whether it be thoughts arising or emotions bubbling up or pains or aches or whatever it is. The more we have a sense of objectivity and space in observing that is cultivated in meditation, the more we actually are able to slow things down and perceive them differently, and to interact with what's happening differently. And as those mechanisms kind of open out and sometimes dissolve or rectify or transmute or alchemize in that spacious, caring, curious attention, then those energies become more freed up, and are often allows a person to settle more deeply, and for their energies to gather and root once again. And then a person feels more like they're abiding in the undivided state, or they are actually abiding in the undivided state. That might be more accurate.